Hey, Melissa, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Cynthia. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I've been on your podcast and now you're on my podcast, and I feel like this topic of the umbrella brand is something that comes up a lot with my clients who have been in business for a few years now. They have like a body of work and they're realizing that they're wanting to like expand kind of that brand, but just the thought of that expansion or what that looks like if it's cohesive feels really overwhelming and really confusing. So I'm excited to chat about that. But before we dive in, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and what you do?
Yeah. Hi everybody. My name is Melissa Burkheimer and I'm the CEO and conversion design director over at Melissa Burkheimer Studios. And the main things that we do in my company is we help brands kind of create strategies to help them not only with their product launch and be successful from like the cold front, so people who may not know about them or maybe people who are warm. And then the second part is that we focus on brand design and user experience and like customer experience and like all of the things before the product launch and on the back end too. So it's kind of I kind of like meet people where they are at this point right now with the brand, and that's what we do.
Amazing. That's so cool. So when you start or when you have a client or anybody, right, come to you and they're at this point where they're like, I want the brand to be more, right? Whether it's including, both services and courses, or maybe they have like a product as well. How do you start thinking about this transition into a bigger umbrella brand? And even if you can define like in your head what you think about when we talk about an umbrella brand.
Yeah. And I mean, when you think of an umbrella brand, it's like, okay, well, what the heck does that mean? Do I need to know that? No, you don't need to really know that. It's really just like a bigger company name. So, for example,
Right.
Apple sells iPhones and iPads and laptops and chargers, and they probably sell TVs. They sell a TV subscription. So, they have all kinds of products that they're marketing under the Apple umbrella brand. And I think
Right.
that a really great example, and I know people don't like them, but we're like talking about like business and marketing here, is Kim Kardashian had KKW Beauty, which is a beauty line, and then she had KKW Fragrance, which was a fragrance line. And she basically shut those two brands down, even though they were really successful, and said, I want to create a better experience for my customers. So I'm working on a completely new brand where they can come to this website and buy fragrances, buy my skincare, buy my beauty line, and anything else she wants to sell. So I think it's thinking about, okay, what is the bigger purpose here? Like, what's the bigger brand intention? And I
Right.
think she probably didn't think about that when she was first launching those two brands, KKW Beauty and KKW Fragrance, but that was a very strategic move on her part. And her sister Kylie did the same thing. Kylie has a skincare line, a baby line, and a cosmetics line. She has like other stuff too, but I don't know that she's doing it that active. But if you Google Kylie Jenner or go to kyliecosmetics.com, on that website, you'll find links to all of the brands on the one website. So I think it's really just kind of that's what an umbrella brand is. I think that could be defined. And if I would answer this two ways, like for personality led businesses who have a course, mastermind coaching product, design service, copywriting service, I would kind of the thing I would really do first is test out your products and services to figure out like, A, is this something you want to do? No one told me this when I was starting out. And B, like, if the Today Show called tomorrow and said, we want you to come to New York next week and be on our show, what would you talk about? Are the products and services that you're selling aligned with that? And so I would kind of just like take a step back, give yourself space and time, because it's going to take a lot of space and a lot of time, probably longer than you think, um, to kind of come up with the brand strategy for like how you want to position yourself. So you're basically then going to take like your vision, which is like the long-term goal, and then implement the mission, which is all the things like your values, how you're going to communicate with your customers, the problems you're solving, and then kind of go from there. If you were an e-commerce brand that sells a physical product, I would do this the exact opposite way. I would come up with your brand ethos, your mission, your purpose, all of the core things that people need to know when they buy from you. And I would determine, I mean, obviously brand identity comes with that too, but I would say do that first when you're launching an e-commerce brand, and then kind of sell them the products and services. No, you don't sell products and services if you're an e-commerce brand, but then sell the physical products under this new thing that you kind of already determined the strategy for, if that makes sense. So does that
Yeah.
answer the question clearly
Yeah,
enough?
yeah. I love it. No, and I love this idea of connecting back with the mission when you feel restricted, right? Which so many of us look for freedom, creativity, that opportunity to just like you want to create a skincare line, you want to create like anything, a baby line, you want to sell to your dog, like all the things. And maybe the brand you created from the beginning now feels restrictive. Maybe for some people, they're like, should I create a second brand? Should this be under this brand? And so it can be kind of confusing because you want your audience to feel still connected, like the people who do follow you, and you don't want to confuse them, right? So if you're confused,
Yeah.
that will probably kind of happen, right? So I guess for someone who's at this crossroads, so when we're thinking about making a transition to a bigger umbrella brand, what are kind of the you just mentioned kind of like the first steps, right? But how do we think about just the journey of that, and like what are the phases? And also my follow-up question to that is like, how can a smaller brand, like the brand inside the bigger brand, how can they be impacted or moved around, or how do you make that decision of just like how it all looks right from the big picture?
Yeah, and that's a great question. And I think that my answer is not going to be, this is just like a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 step process. You don't necessarily have to follow it in this order. It's going to depend first and foremost on so many things. How long have you
Right.
been in business? What do you want to sell? What's the best selling product within your suite of products, services, or like courses or whatever it is that you're
Right.
selling? And is this something you want to be known for? I can give myself as an example because I kind of built a brand around this thing called sales page design. And that's what most people who are aware of me, that's what they know me for. But I got to a point to where I was like, okay, this is working, but I know that I bring so much more to the table, but positioning myself as a sales page designer has worked really well, but I don't feel like it's working as well as I could be working. And I want to challenge myself more and help my clients with all of the things that, go with the sales page.
Right.
So I had to kind of just like honestly take a step back. And I've spent, a couple of years testing different services, different things. I was really clear that I didn't want to offer like I didn't want to do launches anymore. I wanted to just kind of go within and like
Right.
figure out. And I say 2 years because, and I literally hired a copywriter almost a year ago to write my web page copy. And we're just now almost finished with the design to where I'm happy with it, just because I've been working on other stuff. So I think it's just kind of going inward and like figuring out what's kind of creating this new desire and how can you figure this out. I had Monica Sharma on my podcast, who's a brand strategist, and I love this quote she said. When you have a vision instead of a plan, then you can get your team on board and you can easily get your audience on board too, because there's something that they could relate to. So
Yes.
again, I think it's really just kind of going inward and doing like an audit of like all of the things in the business, maybe scoring them from a 1 to 5, however you want to do it, and then decide what you're going to keep, what you're going to refresh, what needs, updated. And then we kind of put those things on a shelf. It's almost like decluttering. Like you're going to have a throwaway pile, you're going to have a donate pile, and you're going to have a keep pile, but then you're going to rearrange everything and it's going to be super organized and make your heart happy when you look at it. That's how I look at decluttering. So I think it's really just kind of doing an audit and like looking at where you're at and trying to decide where you want to be. If you
Yes.
are an individual business owner or you have a small business and you've been doing something for a while that's working like on the front end, and I want to say this as like I hired a mentor to like help me because I was like, okay, I'm doing sales pages, it's working, but I want to do something else. And she was really confused as to why I wanted that. So just go inward, figure out kind of what you want to keep, what you want to don't. or what you don't want to keep. And then that's like the first step. And then I think the second step is really just kind of getting like thinking bigger and like dreaming about the things you actually want to do. Me, for example, I want to start a mascara line. And I was really into doing this last year. And then I kind of pulled myself back down to earth and I said, okay, this is something you can do, but I think it's going to be a down the road project when you have more space and capacity to do it. So
Right.
let's grow your design business because it's already in existence. Let's reposition all of it. Let's create this umbrella brand that I'm working on behind the scenes and will be a few years in the making before it's like actually done. And then you can have this ecosystem where there are some products and there are services and there is maybe like a personality. I don't know. Maybe I'm not the personality. Maybe a book. I don't know. There's lots of different things I can do. So
Right.
take a step back and look at what you want to do. Set up the vision, which is just going to be the long-term goal. It's just like a statement. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and then kind of from there, you're going to come up with like, okay, this is the mission. These are the problems I'm going to solve. And overall, this is how we want our brand to be, to know, look, and feel. And so this goes beyond, this is not, we're not talking like designing logos yet. And from there, you're going to go through some ideas, you're going to go through some, processes to create this mission. But then once you know how you're going to communicate with customers, what your voice is going to sound like, what colors are you going to use, um, how do you want this? If I buy a shampoo from my favorite brand right now, I'm going to get a text from them. I'm going to get an email from them every single time my order has been packed, when it's been shipped, when it's close. They're going to follow up and say, can you review this? So creating those customer touch points for every single product you have. I mean, if you sell hundreds of products, that's going to be tricky, but you can template the process. And
Right.
so once you've kind of got these foundational things done, then you can start with your brand identity and design, voice, messaging, and things like that. Get those created. You might need to hire someone to help you. SEO is an important thing to consider too, especially because people are still using Google. Figure out what social media platforms you want to be on. And then from there, you're going to need to get a creative team to fill in the gaps that you can't currently handle. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
just build it. And I would say do it slow. So if I was going to summarize, like clean out what doesn't work, like get rid of those, decide what you're keeping, figure out how you want to position it and what you want to be known for, create that vision, determine the mission. Because I know that once I say vision and mission and things like that, people get super overwhelmed. The mission is just literally the implementation plan and like the overall, the guide for getting you to the long-term vision. And
Right.
you can come back to that every single day. So come up with those things. And then from there, build the collateral that you need to market, sell, and visually let people know who you are, what you're doing, why you're doing it, and how you help them, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, I love that. And I love this step of like dreaming big. I feel like we start our businesses dreaming big, but then we have these crossroads where we forget we need to dream bigger. Like whatever you're dreaming, like go bigger. Like what you said, like I want to create a book or a mascara line or for me, eventually I want the agency to do all sorts of digital marketing, and even do like videography. Like I love that. And so to me, that's like, yeah, that's maybe 10, 20 years down the line. Maybe that's a different company. I don't know. But when you think about that, that's where that fire in you lights up and you get excited, right? And so you're able
Yeah.
to take those steps today, to just try a little bit of that, like maybe offer a little bit to a client as a test, like you said before, or maybe put out like a demo offer or something, or just talk to one contact that's like going to get you a little bit there, because I think that's just important.
Yeah.
And I guess the last thing is, you mentioned Kim Kardashian as an example, but I'd love if you could share any other examples, either with clients you've worked with or in the media, that have inspired you, who've done this kind of transition.
Um, a transition. I'm trying to think of another example. I think I didn't work with her on this. I've worked with her in other capacities, but I think Kate Northrup is a great example. She
Yes.
has katenorthrup.com, which is underneath that brand. She's got a money course, a book about money. Um, and then she created this membership program called the Origin Company, which is,
Yeah.
her kind of formula around uh cyclical living, where you're
Yes.
aligned with your own cycle, and then also the moon. And there's like and to-dos and doing less. And then she has
Yeah.
another book called Doing Less. She rebranded from Kate Northrup to the Origin Company. So now the membership is the name of her company. And I think some brands, especially who have bigger personality brands, are making the move towards that. So I think that
Yeah.
that's a great example of Kate. You can still go to katenorthrup.com, but her company is now the Origin Company. Maybe that's
Yes.
going to change us by the time this comes out. I have no idea, but I think that's an example of someone you could do, of
Yeah.
someone they could
Yeah.
reference.
No, I love that. And I feel like it also promotes those of us who just have multiple dreams on our heart, right? Which isn't everybody, but like
Yeah.
it's good to not feel restricted by what you're, giving out into the world, and having a brand that supports that can be really helpful.
Yeah, and I think too, it's important to consider like where you're at, because when I know you said when you first started, you had big dreams. You don't want to know what my dreams are? They were like so basic. I want to get paid to be creative because I had a job where there wasn't like a marketing department, so I couldn't design, I couldn't write, and I wanted to be able to take my kids to and from school. Like those were my only two goals. And I didn't even realize that I could have big business dreams. So now that I kind of got out of the weeds and took a step back to look at all of the experience I've gotten, it feels like I'm starting a brand new job. Like that's
Right.
how I feel like I'm approaching my business now. So it's okay. Like if you're not at a place to where you have like the mental capacity or like the time to even think about rebranding, but I think it's okay. I mean, you can think about it, but I don't know that you need to execute on it right away. Just like know it's eventually something you want to do.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'm planning on rebranding. We talked about this year, and it's been something for the last 2 years I've been thinking about. But like, yeah, I want to do it right. And like you said, I want to do it in a way that's like gradual, but also really meaningful. And anyway, there's so many different ways you could rebrand and make the transition. It doesn't have to be super slow, but it gets to be something, you really think about. So
Yeah, for sure.
oh, this is so great, Melissa. So, yeah, why don't you go ahead and just share like where people can hang out with you and any other information and links you
Yeah,
want to share?
definitely. You can visit me at my website at melissaburkheimer.com. And I am the most active, I would say, on social media wise on Instagram. And my name there is just Melissa Burkheimer. I also have a podcast that Cynthia mentioned she was on called The Design Business Show. And we are the designbusinessshow.com, but it's available on Apple, Amazon, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and there's one in Stitcher.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. We'll include all those links in the show notes. And thanks so much for coming on and sharing just, yeah, your experience around this umbrella brand transition.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.